You are now listening to Broken Line Podcast, presented by Fish Addictions TV. Broken Line Podcast is sponsored by Ice Strong Titanium Spring Bobber, Eskimo Ice Fishing Gear, 13 Fishing, Striker Ice, Coles Resort of Bemidji, Minnesota, Aaron Eichhorst Photography.
Okay, so we are on podcast
18, my friend.
18. We have another guest, and he has a weird name on his Facebook, so I'm going with it. Max, wishing I was fishing Wilson. Is that correct?
Yes, it was.
So normally it's Max Wilson, but
Max Wilson. Facebook made me change it a couple of years back, but yeah, that's what it was for about 10 years.
So you were one of
because there's a lot of fake accounts, I guess. A lot of people have weird names. Some of them aren't appropriate. So one day when I was stationed in North Carolina, they sent me a email saying if I can't prove it, that they're going to change it back, and I had no way of proving that's my name. So
yeah, that's kind of why I put patches in the middle of mine.
Yeah.
So you were one of those people that have had that really, like, I have a couple of friends that are still on Facebook where it's like, that's not your name. It's like,
that was 7th grade Max that thought it was cool at the time, and then all of a sudden the nickname kind of stuck, and pretty soon people just knew me as wishing I was fishing, and they didn't really know my name, so I just kind of kept it.
It's good that you even had Facebook in 7th grade.
You know, I got in a little bit of trouble because I had the big MySpace back when that thing was there. I got a Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook all on the same day, and man,
all before high school,
and I almost didn't make it through middle school because my mom was not too pleased with me.
Can I tell you something?
What's that?
I first logged on to the internet in 2001.
Can I tell you something? I was 5.
I remember I had the dial-up, the AOL,
I had one of those toy things where you pick it up and it's like a speak and spell kind of thing. I had one of those with my first phone.
So in 2001, you were 5?
Math is hard, but 96.
Wow, I was 24.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Man, I got to find a new podcast. Some sort of geriatric podcast.
To think back in the day on nowadays, the kids have, they're 5 years old and they have an iPhone.
Oh, that drives me nuts.
I had a Nokia when I was like maybe 8 or 9, and it was strictly for
games.
Oh, no. Well, I had Snake, and that was awesome.
So you had the Nokia brick phone.
The Nokia brick phone. Yeah,
but it got reception everywhere. It was indestructible. I had one of those.
When you woke up, it was 99%. When you went to bed, it was 99%.
I bet that thing is still 99% to this day, and you haven't charged it since 2001.
Right. And the only reason why I had it was because it was one of them mom needs to keep an eye on. Nowadays, it's like we're going to the dentist, and you need your iPhone to play games to keep the kid busy.
Who did we just have in here?
Yeah, we just had his daughter in here.
Dad? She wants to play. The truck. It's 25-second drive down to the house. Dad, can I play a game on your phone? You can't just sit quietly for 25 seconds.
Sing your ABCs or something for 25 seconds.
She already knows those. I mean, I just handed her the iPad.
She was speaking Spanish the other day.
Yeah.
Wow. How old is she?
She'll be 5 in February.
She's way smarter than me at 5.
Oh, yeah. I'm dumb.
I was eating Play-Doh or something at that age.
Yeah, but we had Play-Doh. That's the good thing. Like, Play-Doh's like non-existent now.
What?
That's like it's like not even a thing. That's whatever happened to kids just going and playing out in the mud. Oh my! Now it's like, oh my God, I'm 5 years old and I'm definitely playing Grand Theft Auto.
My favorite picture of me as a kid. I got 2 pictures that my dad ever took. One, we were planting a tree, so we had a giant hole, and it didn't have the tree in it yet, and it had rained, so it was full of water and stuff like that. And I kept wanting to make mud pies out of it, and my dad told me don't go play in that. So he left for like an hour. He comes back, I'm covered head to toe. I'm talking, there isn't a patch of clear skin on me. It's all dirt.
The good old days.
And he looked at me, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I wanted to camouflage myself."
Nice.
And the same thing, we were.
Did you get that from Predator?
Oh yeah, actually. I'd seen that, it was, but then, another picture was, there's a picture of me down fishing. I've been addicted to fishing ever since I could walk. And, every time we'd launch the boat, my dad would always tell me, don't go in the water. I'd always go in the water. So he'd tell me there's water snakes in there that would pull me under if I went
tell you what, there are places in Wisconsin that have water snakes.
I mean, there's some, but as a young kid here, I thought if I even touched the water, I was a goner. So one day I kind of put my toe in there, I was like, okay, I'm good. Went a little bit further, looked, make sure he wasn't looking, and next thing I know, I'm up to my neck in water. And
you're like, forget you, Dad.
And he's got a picture of me walking back up all soggy and wet, and it's titled "Don't Go in the Water."
Jeez. All right, so who are you? Talk to me a little bit about your life. Like, I'm not going to say you're here for a reason. I wanted you to be on it. But tell me a little bit about you and your life.
That's it's kind of hard to explain exactly who I am, because I'm not really the normal 21-year-old. I'm kind of, most kids my age are doing,
at the bars.
Yeah, doing stuff that they don't really need to be doing. I grew up in Wisconsin. I was born in southern Wisconsin. Mom's a packaging salesman, or she runs a packaging company. My dad was an electrician, fishing guide. He can basically do everything, truck driver. And, he really got me into fishing at a really young age. And I just kind of grew up as a fishing junkie. Once I turned 16, I think I was a sophomore in high school, I bought my first boat by myself, renovated it.
So forget the vehicle. I want the boat.
I was actually really fortunate. I was saving up all this money to buy a car, because I wanted to go all over the place. And my mom's company kind of took off, and the company gave her a company car. So now we had her own personal vehicle that we still had, and I was able to buy it from her cheaper than I was going to buy a brand new car. Mm-hmm. So here I got a cheap car that had a hitch on it, not a lot of towing power, but a hitch. And I took that leftover money and bought my first boat. From there,
what was your first boat?
I had a 16-foot Miracraft. Actually, I had a 14-foot 1969 Starcraft that I bought from my best friend for $400, and we took that everywhere. I mean, we went camping.
Dude, same page out of my book. My first boat was a 14-foot Miracraft with a 6-horse Johnson. It was green and white.
Little 8-horse Evinrude, It was awesome. I took it everywhere, but then I bought that Miracraft, and I took that thing everywhere. I had that thing in some 5-footers out on the Green Bay. I had that places I shouldn't be.
Right. When you're young and hungry, it doesn't matter.
I float. I can do it. But from there, I just I decided I think it was either in between my sophomore and junior year of high school that I wanted to fish a tournament, and I didn't really know how to fish tournaments, none of that. I was just someone who liked to fish all the time. So I went online, started looking for tournaments that I could fish, and I found the Sheboygan Walleye Club, and I decided to hop in that with my dad. I found it on a Wednesday, and it was on a Sunday, and we ended up taking second place in it. It was body water that I fished a lot, and here I'm all intimidated against all these guys in giant Rangers. I'm in a little 16-foot boat, and we were 1297 won it, and we had 1296, so we were real close.
Wow. Well, I've always said so many times, it doesn't matter what you have for quality.
It was fun, but from there it just really took off. I mean, I realized that fishing was what I wanted to do, and I loved the competition and everything. So from there I fished probably about every single tournament possible that I've physically been able to fish since that date. I was gone with the Marines for a while. So I wasn't able to fish some tournaments, but when I'm home, that's what I kind of rely off of. I go around, fish all these tournaments. I do some work with fishing with vets, getting vets out fishing, do that. I spend about 300 days a year on the water. So wow, I live to fish. Awesome. And when I don't do that, I do have a real job, which is surprising to a lot of people. I don't really publicize it a lot because I only like talking about fishing, but I'm a salesman for my family's corrugated packaging company, so I sell boxes and stuff like that. So I do have a regular Monday through Friday 9-to-5 job that keeps me busy, but allows me to have that flexibility to where I can fish. So
nice.
Kind of I've been able to do a little bit of everything. I travel all over the country with the military, with just my normal life fishing. And I get to travel all over. So it's I'm a little bit different than most 20-year-old or 21-year-olds, but
it's admirable, man. It is. It really is. And, I try to fish as much as I can. I have a 40 to 48 hour, work week myself, and I'm a little bit older than you. I'll tell you what, I have many Fridays where it's like, you know what, I don't want to fish tomorrow. I just want to sit and chill. But I used to have that same drive, and I still have it. I can dig deep and find it, and it's admirable, man.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, for sure.
Yeah, I tell people all the time because my friends they're always bringing it up to me. It's one of the best lifestyles I could ever live. I'm honestly living the dream. That's why I tell everybody when I tell them, ask me how I'm doing. I'm honestly living the dream. But there are days where it gets tough. I mean, 300 days a year in the water. Not every one of those days is flat calm and 75 degrees. No. There's a lot of days where I wake up and my body hurts. I'm sore, because I go from tournament to tournament. There's no off time. There's no family time. It's me on the road traveling by myself, and I'm putting 40,000 miles a year on my truck. And there's days where, especially on the Great Lakes, when I spend a lot of time out there, your body just hurts. I mean, you wake up and it hurts to sleep. It hurts to walk. Your skin is like leather. And there's days where I don't want to do it, but I get up and I push through it. And when I'm on the water, I really want to do it more.
And hats off to your mom and dad. I mean, to recognize that passion that you have for it and to fully support you, that's big.
Well, not every 21-year-old is doing what you just said. And we've exactly what you were probably just about to say is we've talked so many times about family supporting the kids. If you were going to go do championship after championship after championships, like to a parent, school, you can do school later. You rock what you're doing. Like, and even then, I mean, you did both, but just the support of a family member, like your parents, is phenomenal. That's what got you where you are.
I'll tell you what, I've always been very family orientated. Like any other families, we clash a lot. We butted heads quite a bit, but my mom and even my dad have been the most supportive people that anyone could ever ask for. I see parents that super strict on their kids and stuff like that, and my parents were always so cool. They understood that this is something I'm actually good at. It's not just a hobby for me. It's they see that I have the potential to make something out of it. And there's a lot of times where I don't see them. I don't see my family enough, and I've gone a year without seeing my family, and they still support me 100%. And they understand when I can't make it to certain things, and when I'm gone all this time. And even in high school, in my early ages of my my career before it turned into the monster that it is today, I was just, even without tournaments, I was out there fishing every single day just to try and get better, just to learn, and they completely understood. One of the best stories I ever tell was one of the first summer I kind of started doing it heavily, and I went to Europe on a class trip, and I went to Europe for a month and a half. So I was gone a good chunk of time, and I come home, and I'm home for 3 days, and my best friend's dad calls me and he goes, "Hey, do you want to go to Canada?" Yeah, I want to go to Canada.
Absolutely. Sign me up.
If I ever say no to that, please smack me. But I was like, "When are we leaving? Like next week sometime?" He goes, and this is at 9:00 at night, mind you. I just got home from fishing. He goes, "Oh no, I plan on leaving by about 6:30 tomorrow morning." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Walk upstairs and ask my mom. I said, "Hey, do you know where my passport is?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's on the table." And she's like, "Why?" I said, "Well, I got invited to go to Canada." I was like, "Do you have any problem with me going?" She's like, "Well, who are you going with?" Casey's dad. She's like, "Oh, okay, that's fine. Just make sure you call it." The rule is I have to give her a hug before I leave, every time I leave, and I just have to call her and check up.
Keep in contact. That's a good parent to say, "Hey, all I want is for you to call me." My mom's the same way. You can go do whatever you want to do, but just give me a call. And it was the same thing when you were underage and you're like, "Are you going to that party?"
Mm-hmm.
Hey, if you ever need a ride or if you ever need anything, that's the only really big rule, is just call, because they're there for you. And that's pretty supportive.
That's exactly how my dad was. He always told me, I don't care what happens, what situation you are. If you need me, call me. I'll be there in a heartbeat. And, that I give my parents so much credit, because I was not the easiest kid in the world. I haven't been the most well-behaved kid, as far as, fight with my siblings, talking back, stuff like that.
Typical kid stuff,
right? Normal. But the cool thing with my parents is they gave me that freedom, and I never showed them that was not the right thing to do. I've never.
You didn't take it for granted.
Never. I'm very proud to say I've never done drugs. I never got in trouble. I never got arrested, any of that. I was never out drinking, partying, because when all other kids my age were out doing drugs, drinking, doing all the normal partying that high schoolers tend to do, I was traveling somewhere. I was going to Green Bay. I was going to Lake Erie, and I was working on my craft. And I was building myself to set myself up for the future, for success in the future. And I look at kids my age now. I have a lot of friends that that are in prison now, or I have friends that are dead. I have friends that have DUIs, multiple underage drinking tickets, and they can't go do certain things that I can do now.
Right.
And that makes it worth it. And I give that much credit to my parents, because they they trusted me. It was, it's a working relationship that we have, where they could trust me to go out on my own and be a man, because that was one thing that, I did very early, was I grew up real fast, and especially when I joined the military, that grows you up real fast, and you learn how to handle yourself. And, ever since I was 16, I've been very independent, to where, if I want something, I go out and I work for it. And there's the one thing I want, my eyes are on that. I don't look at the side distractions. I don't sway from that. I won't be tempted by it.
And that's getting to be a rare quality in a lot of today's youth. Not all of them, but a lot. That work ethic, that I want something instead of just, well, you got to work for it. They don't understand that. They just want it.
Yep. And that's, and that whole millennial argument, I can see that, but there, the one thing I do want to stress, the older generation, is there are good younger people out there, and there's a lot of people. My tournament partner next year, Isaac, is one of them. He's a really, really hardworking guy, and he works harder than pretty much anybody I know, and that's why we work so well together.
Yeah.
Is because we both have the same prize in mind. Mm-hmm. And when you can find other people like that and work towards that common goal, that just sets everyone up for success. Unfortunately, in this day and age, we do have some people that, that don't have the best intentions in mind, and they get sidetracked really easily, and they don't have the best work ethic. But there are a vast majority of my friends that are working hard, really hard. That
how many times I get called a millennial?
Oh my gosh,
man! And I look, and they now it's to the point where they say it just to piss me off. Mm-hmm. I look them straight in the eye and I said, "How many millennials do you know that own 3 businesses?" Mm-hmm. I said, "I get it. Millennial can be in this category of this is the age group, but man,
and that's
millennials to me is."
And if we were to follow that rule, technically, I wouldn't even be sitting here with you guys.
Yeah,
that's. But we all have this common thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that was one thing I really, really faced when I first broke into, the whole entire fishing world, because everyone's so tight knit and the guys are great. But when I first started out, I was a 16-year-old kid, and to them, 16-year-old punk who didn't know what he's doing, and it was really tough to kind of on some guys to get the time of day. I was just a kid, and I wasn't taken seriously, as a millennial. I got, I got a lot of things that were said. And,
you're a millennial.
Yeah, he's a millennial. He's 16, doesn't know what he's doing. But I just put my head down. I kept working. And pretty soon, these guys, because growing up, I never really, sports are cool and everything. I played my fair share of sports, but I really idolized, the Gary Parsons, Kavayas, Kimos, Mark Martin, Ted Takasaki, those guys, like Bill Shimoda, those powerhouses, those guys that you see on TV. Those are the guys I idolize. So to be able to do this and to fish side by side with these guys and see them, I mean, my first tournament I walked into, I fished the AIM out of Green Bay. I was fangirling like crazy. I'm like, oh my God, there's Ted Takasaki. Oh my God, there's Bill Shimoda. Oh my God, there's Gary Parsons. And I
have to fish against these guys.
Well, no, like I was fishing with them at the time.
Them, yeah.
I was co-angling, and Gary Parsons was my hero growing up. We so much so that my first big boat was his old boat, and so it was that special boat, and I went up to him and I introduced myself to him, and I'm meeting my idol right now, and they're announcing co-anglers, and he's like, oh, just hang on a second, let me figure out who my co-angler was, and I got drawn as his co-angler.
No kidding.
Gary Parsons was my first ever pro I fished with, and I'm like, I almost fainted right there.
What year was that?
Oh God, it was the last year they had the big pro co, so 2014 I want to say. It was a year after he won that AIM, because he had won the big AIM the year prior, and then I think John Schneider won it.
It was Green Bay.
Yeah. It was out of Oconto.
Yeah, I'm almost 98% sure I was there.
Really?
For that.
I was
because I still have my AIM jersey. Like 15 of them actually.
I remember you. Yes,
I was one of the camera operators, and I was editing in the editing bay and everything like that. And that's crazy. I actually still have, let's see, there's 4 or 5 pros that still have my profile or my picture that I took of them.
Really
from that event.
Yeah.
Gary Parsons has. I feel like he just had his not too long ago. There's I think 4 or 5 that still have it, and
we've said it before. Like,
been years.
The fishing world seems huge, but once you get in it,
it's tiny.
It's super tiny.
And that's how small the fishing world is. A really funny story off that. Joe Bricco, the mastermind behind JT Rods, or JT Outdoors. They started out selling hot boxes. It's a little box that keeps the hole open, keeps the hole from freezing over.
Yeah, I bet Joel. He's a great guy.
Awesome guy. One of the nicest guys I ever met. I work all the way down in southern Wisconsin. He lives somewhere up in northern part of Minnesota. In his I think he lives in the North Pole. That's where he makes all the rods and stuff at.
Right.
That's what they say.
I was working one day at my normal job, and I was in a warehouse, switching over some stuff that got messed up, like happens all the time. And I was fixing it, and I look over and I see a hot box. And this is before I knew Joe and everything. And personally, I started talking to the warehouse manager, and we started talking fish, and he goes, "Yeah, my nephew, he makes these boxes that keep the holes open." Oh, I mean, you mean the hot box? He goes, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, is your nephew named Joe Bricco?" Yeah, he is. So I work with his uncle.
Oh wow,
all the way down in southern Wisconsin.
Right.
All different part of the a couple 10 hours away, and I work with them. And I run into people all the time within my personal life and fishing world that, oh, this guy knows this guy. It's such a tight knit community.
Yeah,
everyone's so close, and everyone knows each other, and that's one thing I love about it.
It is a small community, and I was just literally just when you said Oconto, I was like,
I saw the gears turning.
I remember my photo made it in the Oconto paper, and that was somewhere between 2012 and 2000. Let's say 14.
I'm pretty sure it was 14 or 13, because it was the very last year they had it. Because then they switched over to the weekend walleye series.
It might have been 13. I don't know, but I remember because I started working with the Next Bite right around.
It would be
2012, so it would have been like the next year, because I did the AIM circuit. We did it up here, we did it Ohio, we did it Oconto. I think we did Oconto twice, I feel like.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's crazy. Maybe I'll look through my photos of that event and see if you're like in the background somewhere.
That's
or something.
That's really cool, because that was such a huge tournament for me, because that was my very first getting out there. And
I remember doing an interview with Gary after he took one of the top 4 places or something,
because the year prior he won it, and then I think he wound up pretty good in that tournament, because we had a pretty good day. It was kind of funny fishing with Gary to see how he does it, because I took so much.
Well, they got the bait, the secret bait.
They had
the prototype baits.
They had the flicker minnow that time. I got to try that for the first time, and it was really funny. And
they won the tournament off a bait that no one else can get.
Yeah, and a lot of people were a little upset about that, but they were testing it out, and he was doing a lot of work with it, and it was really cool to see how he did it. The funny part was we came out, and I sat on the floor, and it was flat calm. We were in his nitro, and we went from Oconto all the way over to Sturgeon Bay, back across the bay down to the mud somewhere, drove around, over to Shadors to the other shoreline. We went east to west shorelines 4 times before he decided where he wanted to fish, because he was looking for all those fish. We got our fish in really short order, and then we went out, trying to find a pot of fish using the flicker minnows for bigger fish for upgrades, and we hook into a monster. And he had me reeling all the fish, and he's netting. And here, walleye God here, Gary Parsons is netting. And sometimes on nets, you have the base of the net, and then where the mesh starts and the base of the net starts, there's sometimes will be a hole. there'll be a gap in the two. Well, on this, he had a pretty big gap in that. So when he went to go net this fish, that fish went right through that gap. And here, I mean, I'm talking, this is a big fish. This is a, put you in the top 10 type of fish, important fish. He goes to get it and he goes, oh no, because he missed it and it went straight through, and he comes back around and he hooked the trebles into it and he brings it up, and then it flops into the wash well of the boat. And he threw the net back, and when he did, it knocked me down, and he reached down to grab it, and the fish flopped out of his hands into the water. I mean, it was so comical just the whole time it was happening. And he knew, that was an important fish, and he looks back and he sees me on the ground, and he's like, oh my gosh, are you okay? He felt so bad. I'm laughing because I'm like, I made that same mistake at least like 3 or 4 times, and I'm like, gosh, I'm the worst fisherman in the world. And I'm like, I just watched the, grandfather of walleye over here catch, do exactly what I did. I thought that was like, I took out of that. I'm like, okay, everybody messes up. It's not just me,
you had your human moment.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, he's human, but he's, I'm sure that's the only mistake he's ever made. But it was such a funny story because we sat there afterwards, talking about it. He's like, that was, he said, I'm so glad they didn't have a camera on me because that was so comical, because he went up, missed it, came back, got on the treble hooks, lifts this 30-inch fish up, it falls off, he grabs it, flops out of his hands, and I'm over there, I'm tripping, falling on the back of the boat. All of us were just, it was funny.
I'm seeing if I could find the photos on here, but
while you're looking for that,
why don't you hit him with that next question?
Yeah. Hashtag Flat Brim Nation.
Yeah.
Are you the only tournament circuit flat brimmer out there? What's up with the flat brim?
I'm one of the only flat brim guys. There's guys that wear flat brims, but they're not ready to take the public backlash.
Now I've seen it in the pro bass level.
Yes.
Okay. Is that where it started?
I started the flat brim nation. Guys wear flat brims. Some guys just like it. When I first wore my flat brim, and I'll tell this story. It's kind of a funny story, kind of a, how it started, but, there was bass guys that were wearing it. And what happened was I had got a flat brim for my birthday. And mind you, before all this went down, I'd been wearing a Mercury flat brim all year long. People just never noticed it. No one. Because
I just want to reach out and give her a good arc,
right?
Man.
And that's what most people say.
What I did, and I still do. Like I get a brand new hat from a sponsor or something. First thing I do is I curl that thing up.
And I used to do that all the time too. And I just wore the hat. It's a hat, and I liked how that one looked. And I went to Lake Erie. In fact, it was 1 year ago, Thursday, Thanksgiving, right after Thanksgiving, I went out to Lake Erie, and I started catching some really big fish, like Erie always produces. And I put those fish on there. And my friends actually started giving me so much grief for it. I mean, they're like, "Oh, what are you, a bass fisherman? Oh, you need to bend that brim, And me being the funny guy that I am, I go, "Okay, these guys love my hat. I'm gonna keep posting it." So it kind of turned into a thing. Well, unfortunately, after that, I started getting some really negative comments, and
all over a hat. And then, mind you, everything I'm about to tell you is over a hat. Okay.
So, I'm getting. And from my friends, I'm totally okay with my friends giving me grief. That's awesome, because I'm as much of a trash talker as most of my friends are. Right. If you ask my buddy Isaac, I'm the biggest trash talker So I'm fine. I'm fine with it. But then it was people that I had no idea who they were start coming on there, and they're saying really like rude and non-joking stuff. And I, believe it or not, I actually got 2 death threats from people for wearing a flat brim
over a hat.
I had people tell me that,
unbelievable, man.
They called me a thug, a
thug life,
a gangster, a couple other words I can't say. And I had a couple guys say that they'd have no problem shooting me if they ever saw me, and that I better watch out wearing a flat brim like that. And my personal favorite, I got called a flat brim wearing clown who's going to get murdered by the pros. And that didn't hurt my feelings. It shouldn't. It made me mad.
It should give you a spark to just say F you and go harder.
Flatter.
And that's
I'm gonna bend it the other way.
And that's what got me so frustrated. I was so, because with being on social media and having the presence that I have, I can't say what I really want to say to these people. If you ask my buddy that was there that night, I was putting together an ice shack, and I was actually so mad. I had to sit down because I was shaking. I was like, because I'm one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. I treat everyone the same, and I'm super cool to everyone. And no matter who it is, I don't care if you are someone who just picked up a rod for the first time, or if you're the biggest name walleye fisherman in the world. I will be your friend no matter what, because where I came from, no one fished. So if you fished, you were my best friend. I don't care. I don't care if you don't like me. We're best friends in my mind.
We're gonna fish at some point.
And so I thought about it, and in my head, because I had put Flat Brim Nation in one of my photos that I put out for my friends, Flat Brim Nation strikes again. And I thought about it. I'm like, what's the best way to kind of, get back, not get back at these people, but show these people, you know what? I don't care that you don't like it. And you don't like it, I'm going to keep doing it because that's who I am. And I'm going to keep doing what I do, because I don't do things the way everyone else does things. So then I started doing Flat Brim Nation.
Every single photo, hashtag.
Every single photo, putting in people's minds. And I got a lot of grief, and a lot of guys still make fun of it to this day. But basically what I want out of Flat Brim Nation, and I'm kind of trying to protect that, because there's a lot of people that now that Flat Brim Nation is starting to get a name, they're trying to use that and stuff like that. And I wasn't okay with that, because you laughed at me then, and then now you see it's
right.
worth something, But it kind of grew into this thing to where Flat Brim Nation, it's not just about a hat. It's about everyone coming together and everyone uniting under one singular purpose that we have, and that's to catch fish, and to be every one of us to become friends, so we can sit around a table like this and just talk about fishing, no matter if you have a bent brim, flat brim, upside down brim, no brim, whatever you may want.
Like
a head coming through your Taco Bell visor.
I'm gonna be your friend, and really, I've had companies that start sending me flat brims. I've had people like Offshore, Mercury, Triton. My boat dealer, they've specifically made flat brims for me. So companies are thinking of me,
nice.
And they say any publicity, there's no such thing as bad publicity.
No.
So when people think flat brim, what's the first thing you think when you think flat brim?
I know what I'm thinking now.
Max Wilson, and that's the first thing. And so that's kind of where it's kind of grown into its own monster. And next year, kind of what we're looking to do for Flat Brim Nation is I'm trying to come out with a line of clothing and hats, a bent brim, flat brim, and what I want to do, what my vision for all this is, because I want something positive to come out of it. I want to take a negative and I want to turn it into a positive, and I want to sell these hats, and I want to take 100% of the profits. None of this is going to be made any money in my pocket, but I'm going to take all that money and I'm going to put that into, there's multiple veterans tournaments that veterans outings that we do. I've done work with Fishing with Vets, Band of Brothers Outdoors. There's a couple fishing like vets tournaments that we have on Green Bay, and then there's another one that I do a lot for the NPA is the kids clinics.
Mm-hmm.
We get kids rods, give them kind of seminars on basic fishing techniques, safe handling, safety in a boat, stuff like that. And there's a couple kids tournaments that I want to donate to, and I want to help make that happen, because my main thing is I want to get people on the water, and I want to sustain this industry, because we're in a dying industry. The walleye industry, it's not what it was 20 years ago.
Right.
You look at the old the RCAs, the PWTs, the old MWCs, it's really declined, and we're kind of the FLWs, we're in a dying breed, and I want to get as many as those young people back into the sport, and bring them back from the dark side of bass fishing and put them into the real fish and get them on the walleyes.
Dark side of bass.
So that's kind of what it's turned.
That's awesome,
into.
Max. That's really cool.
I made a custom flat brim for you.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I made it myself.
Wow.
Just kidding. So for the people who aren't watching,
it's real cheese.
It's a flat brim hat that is you definitely don't have to wear it because it probably is too small. But
yeah, I got a big head.
Show it off. It's a cheese because you're from Wisconsin, and it's a flat brim. And when I saw this, I thought of you. So.
I love that. That is probably one of my favorite things.
Now, would you be upset if I started Visor Nation? Because I'm about the only fishing guy left that wears a visor.
There's a couple guys that wear a visor. There's Greg Wurzba. You had a photo of him up there.
Yeah, it was 2013, by the way. I just had him up.
2013. I saw.
Joe Okada. He wears one as well.
Who's the guy from Rapala? The
fighter
marketing guy. No, he's he's on the business side of the deal. You
one of
see
the
him every
higher-ups.
once in a while, but he wears visor. But
Yeah.
I'm getting older now. I'm getting a little gray.
Oh, one
And
of
I've
the
been asked
lenders.
if I'm wearing one of those funny hats, those
Yeah.
that have the fake gray hair sticking up out of there.
Yeah.
I say nope.
Well, I think it's one of the lenders. The younger one. He wears the visors all the time.
James.
Yeah.
Is it James? Yeah, he wears a visor.
Yeah, one of the.
So there are some visor guys out
there's
there.
a lot of visor guys,
Let's get together, make a
Yeah,
club.
and well, we can have like little fish offs, like.
I was as you were talking about Flat Brim Nation, I wanted to reach up and just kind of straighten this bad
just a
boy
little
out.
bit,
Maybe,
just to make a point.
Once people hear the story about it and they hear, I'm not just some thug out there trying to fish.
I'd wear a flat brim
They
visor
like it,
for you, man. In a
it's
heartbeat.
and to be totally honest to people, like before all this went down, I really wasn't even a fan of flat brims. Like I got a weird shaped head and it just didn't work with me all the time. But
that when you look at you see you holding up some fish and stuff like that, and you see the flat brim. For the people that now know the story, it's a cool, like, oh, okay, he's not a loser, a d-bag, or whatever you want to, all the millions of names that you got called.
Yeah,
he's a guy that actually is doing something for a reason. Yeah, and that's like getting a tattoo. It's like, oh, I have this tattoo. Well, why do you have it? Well, I have it for a reason. Why do you wear that hat? I have it for a reason. There's a story behind it.
Yep,
and
that's the one thing I really wish everyone would be able to know it, because growing up, I always try and be friends with everybody. I never want someone to dislike me for any reason. When I find out if someone has an issue with me, it bothers me a little bit. Because I want people to know the story, that I'm not that what some guys say. I'm a jerk or whatever the words I can't quite say on air. But if you fish, like I said, if you even have any interest in any type of fish, I'll even be friends with you if you're a bass fisherman, because
you'll take the hit.
I'll take it, and if you fish, then in my opinion, or in my my view, we're best friends. Like I said, I don't care if you hate me and you think, oh, he's weird. In my mind, we're best friends no matter what.
So you want to talk about weird?
Yeah, Patrick's one of the weirdest fishermen out there.
Yeah, because I don't fish walleyes.
You don't fish carp though, do you?
I will.
He fishes the rough, weird,
a lot of the rough fish,
crazy.
You're a sheephead
like you're
fan.
talking.
Oh my God, he's a huge sheephead.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wow.
There's a little lake just north of here that's got some giants.
Well, hey, I mean, I was dubbed the sheephead whisperer last year because I have a very amazing ability at finding the biggest, most baddest walleye fighting like sheephead.
And best friends are born
in
just
any
like
system.
That. I mean, we were good friends already, but now it's like really solid.
Fun fact: I actually caught a sheephead that missed the state record by 2 pounds during a tournament once on Lake Winnebago.
Yeah,
31 pounds it weighed.
Oof.
And we were trolling Salmo Hornets, the little guys.
Yep.
And I look over and I see that rod touching the water. And that came in just like a sheephead always does, like a garbage pail sideways. And it came in and it almost didn't fit into our wide musky net.
You got to admit, man, those things pull hard.
They pull. I mean, I kind of hate the things a little bit. Hate's a strong word, but there are days
they annoy you.
Well, yeah.
Especially if you're in a tournament and you get one. I mean, I can see that.
Because you come into a situation. So like me, right? And we'll talk about it a little bit later. But we had the NTC this last year, and we're on the last day, and the last day was a big day for us. And we struggled mightily. And I told the camera guy, every single day we've had a fish as we're reeling in. All the first 2 days as we're reeling in, and I told him just be ready because we were done. You were pulling in, and all of a sudden the planer board goes down. And this is a big money tournament, and planer board just sinks. And I'm like, oh God, here it is. This is our chance. Comes up, and it's the only 10-pound sheephead we caught all week. And a week later, same thing happens to me. NWT, the biggest tournament series out there. We're on the Mississippi River, and I was right on the bubble for making some money. And right in front of the same camera guy that I had the week prior. I mean, I went from Lake Erie to the Mississippi River, and same camera guy. He's with John Hoyer because John Hoyer almost won it. He came really close, and I came drifting right past John, and all of a sudden, just something slams my willow cat, which, according to everyone, only walleyes eat willow cats, nothing else. And so I'm fighting it, big fish. It's doing those big head shakes. It's a big walleye, and I'm playing it, and cameraman's right on me, and I turned the boat so the cameraman could see, I'm about to be a TV superstar here, and it comes up and it's 10-pound sheephead. And I'm like, I told Mike, the camera guy, I said, you know what? It's you. I swear, you're like, I need you to not ever film me because I only catch sheephead around you, and that was twice. So they frustrate me, but there are times where there's some days when the fishing's really slow. I welcome a sheephead because then I know my planer boards actually know how to go back every once in a while.
Yeah, I caught my first one. I was actually bullhead fishing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I caught it on an ultralight, and it was
that's fun.
It was 25, 26 inch. I've never weighed one.
Mm-hmm.
I've just measured them.
Yeah,
and I was hooked immediately.
Oh, yeah.
I'd never caught one
Nice
before, and I was just like, my God, it's like a giant crappie. Their fin structure and everything. The fight was awesome, and then on Black Duck Lake, it's got big sheep's head in it, and I went up there and I just started playing around, and I can catch them. I can target them.
Have you ever tried eating them?
No, but I've heard of people eating them.
I
wouldn't want to eat these here because I learned from a friend of mine that a lot of these fish here in this lake in particular, they could be anywhere from 75 to 80 years old.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, they grow pretty slow.
Wow.
And, you go back 75, 80 years, or even 60 years, the water wasn't as clean as it is now. I mean, they used to run straight pipes right from the house out to the lake. And
there's like the Fox River started on fire one time, or the river in Cleveland started on fire.
I don't like to eat. Like, I like to fish for rough fish. I'll eat bullheads. They're just like eating a catfish. But
yeah,
a lot of the other stuff I kind of shy away. I kind of hunt for the trophies.
For the fight.
In the fight, yeah. For sure.
Because I've been told the sheephead actually tastes, there's some guys that'll throw them in with walleye. Some guys swear they can't taste the difference, but what I've been told is cold water. That's when you got to pull them out.
Yeah.
I've wanted to try them, but, I don't eat a ton of fish. So.
Yeah. And that's over the next couple of years, I'm going to try to figure out how to target them ice fishing.
That would be cool.
I could only imagine trying to pull one of those things up through
3 holes because they're that.
I have no clue where to begin. But I'll figure it out someday.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's cool, man. That's cool.
So you're from Wisconsin, and I'm from Wisconsin, so that's kind of cool. But what's your favorite thing about Wisconsin? What's your favorite thing? Favorite body of water to fish in Wisconsin? It's a 3-part question. Those are the first.
So
parts.
Favorite thing about Wisconsin?
Yep. Everyone from Wisconsin has a favorite thing about Wisconsin.
So I grew up in southern Wisconsin. So I grew up just outside of Milwaukee. And I always tell people southern Wisconsin is different than northern Wisconsin, central Wisconsin.
Much like Minnesota.
You're from there, and the weather is a lot different. Northern Wisconsin gets just pounded by cold. I mean, there'd be days where it's like 75,000 million degrees below zero up there, and it's 32 down by me. So
so you know, where we sit right now is higher than the whole state of Wisconsin.
Oh, I understand that. That's why I live in Wisconsin and not.
But I tell you what, if you're central Wisconsin type area, which is where I was south and central, something about just a February weather it's beautiful.
It is.
It's not freezing. It's beautiful. But there is sometimes like a scarce of ice and snow, and that's a problem as well sometimes.
Hence why I'm here today. But, the thing I love is in Wisconsin, especially where I'm at, I'm so centrally located to everything. I'm a traveler. I'm not a homebody. I've never been known to sit around and do nothing. It drives me nuts. So I always like to be going somewhere. So where I live, I'm 20 minutes from Lake Winnebago. I'm an hour from Green Bay. I'm less than an hour from Lake Michigan. I'm 2 hours away from the Mississippi River. I'm 3 hours away from Minocqua. I can go anywhere in the state, and Wisconsin is so centrally located to everywhere. I can go on weekend trips to Minnesota. I can go on weekend trips to Lake Erie. I can go to the UP. I can go down south. And, we have all those beautiful weather that everyone has, like Ohio, it's warmer. Usually, it's got the Great Lakes, but it's warmer usually. Minnesota, it's got all the lakes, but it's bitterly cold. Wisconsin, it gets cold, but it doesn't get that cold. It doesn't get freezing cold, but yet we still get to experience all that beautiful weather.
And being a Minnesota guy, I drive through Wisconsin to pick up my daughter, so I go from Superior all the way through. I actually pick her up in Rockford. Or just south of Rockford, Illinois.
Okay.
Rochelle, Illinois.
Yep.
So I drive from Superior all the way through Janesville.
Okay.
And it's a beautiful state. It really is.
I mean, you get towards the western part, you get more rolling. Southwestern. You get central because we have property up in central Wisconsin. That's where we hunt. And, you get that wooded stuff, you get very beautiful.
Are you talking like around the Wisconsin Dells area type?
Kind of. We're just north of the Dells. We're Marshfield area. The town that we're actually in, their little claim to fame is they're in the exact center of the state. Like dead center, exact.
They measured it. So
it's official. It says it on the sign.
Is that Marshfield, the clinic, right?
Yeah,
the
it's
hospital or whatever.
Right by the clinic, and that's a nice area. But you get up towards. My favorite drive whenever I come up to Minnesota, I always go through Duluth, Superior, because that's just so beautiful. And you get over towards Minocqua, you get, over by the border up to the UP up there, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's, for me, that's where I belong. But yet, where I live, I can still go up there, but then I can still go to the city and do stuff. As much as I hate going to the city, but there's times where I need to, you know.
Wow.
And I love it.
I lived in I lived in Minocqua for a year. Was born in Racine, and I lived in Wisconsin Dells. And Wisconsin Dells, you got the tourism, and it's like I called them the terrorists because it was just $80 for a piece of fudge type of deal.
Well, it's so bad over there. They actually give the residents a discount.
Absolutely. I remember A's and B's in school.
Yeah.
Go to Kalahari or whatever, you get free day if you have A's and B's and stuff.
Well, yeah, like I had a girlfriend that lived there, and if she was a resident technically because her family had a house up there, and they would get discount cards where if they presented that card, hey, I'm a resident of the Dells, get 15% off, because it's such a tourist town.
And dude, I was just there last year. They are importing Europeans in.
Oh yeah,
IHOP. Working. No one speaks English at IHOP, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Because everyone who lives in the Dells is pretty much owning or working at a business at some point. All of us kids, I had friends that the parents own like a water park and this. And it's like, okay, you grow up on the hockey team, and where are we going for our hockey party this year? Oh, we're gonna go over to his water park that he owns. Like that's what I grew up in. And then once I moved up here, it was like I didn't have water parks, but I had lakes. And that was
and it's hard to get you to come down to town unless there's food involved.
Absolutely. I don't like going to the city. I'm 12 minutes north of town, and unless Taco Bell or something's involved, I don't like going to town. I like being up here in the country, and you can see the stars. You don't have sound traffic from vehicles. You don't have light pollution. It's perfect.
I'll tell you what, like with my normal job, unfortunately, deer and fish don't like to buy packaging. So I have to travel into the city quite a bit. And I'm going to go gray by the time I'm 22 because I have to drive. I have a truck. I mean, I just recently bought a work car. And so driving a truck in downtown Milwaukee in rush hour, I'm putting in 500-600 miles a day just driving as a traveling salesman. There's so many dumb people in the cities.
Absolutely.
It's just it drives me nuts. And I'm like, by the end of the day, I'm just like, I never want to. I don't want to see people. I just want to sit.
But Mitchie just got a roundabout.
Oh God,
they don't. That dude,
do you drive over it?
No, you see the people online, and it's just like they're on like Bemidji Chit Chat and stuff like they're talking, and they. Are you kidding me? You don't know how to use a roundabout,
dude? Bemidji is ultra progressive compared to where I'm from. I'm from the Iron Range.
Oh,
the Hibbing Chisholm area. And they got 2 roundabouts, and before they were even built, people were like, might as well put an ambulance right in the center. Like, oh my God, people, it's just a circle.
My favorite is,
I know people know.
If you're scared, just go out at midnight and take a couple loops around there. You'll figure it out.
Well, my favorite, but like by where I grew up, they took out the stoplights because they took forever and it would back traffic up like a mile and a half during rush hour. These people put 4 of them in a row. So you get dizzy by the time you're done because you're just round and round.
I'm all about roundabouts, man.
They're cool. They're awesome, but it was just
they're faster than stopping.
It was excessive after a while because I mean it wasn't just like roundabout, drive a little bit, and then another roundabout. It was roundabout, all just like a straight line of roundabouts. It was like they OD'd on roundabouts.
I lived in St. Paul for a couple of years, and I worked for Stratasys, it's a 3D printing company, down in the Eden Prairie, right next to the Vikings training, one of their training facilities or practice facilities. And I had to take a different way home from work, and I was looking at Google Maps, and I had to go through 6 roundabouts in a row. It's kind of weird. You look on it, it's just like what were you drinking that afternoon there, Mr. Civil Engineer? Let's just put 3 of our 6. We'll do 6.
All right, so you are giving for this. You're giving a rod away,
Mm-hmm.
and is one of your sponsors. So let's.
Is this a short rod?
It would be. It is a high,
Is it ice fishing?
Yeah, it's a high-end ice fishing rod. It's kind of our middle rod designed between our panfish rod and our walleye rod. It's kind of like a crappie perch and small walleye rod. It's made for like jigging spoons and a little bit heavier than a tungsten jig, but not quite your bigger jigging wraps and heavier spoons.
Gotcha.
Perfect. So to get into that drawing, message us on Facebook, Broken Line Podcast. 'Tis the season. That's the code.
Ho, ho, ho.
'Tis the season. So if you message us that code, you get in a drawing for awesome gift that he is giving away.
Oh, by the way, I forgot. I didn't answer your question.
What was the question?
Green Bay is my favorite place to fish.
Perfect.
Okay, and a couple unnamed.
So since
lakes.
you're by Green Bay, Packers?
Big time.
Big time.
What's
up with this year?
It's tough this year. I mean, the Vikings had to go ahead and break our best quarterback to win, but hey, if you guys lost that long,
I'm forced to watch Packers games with Aaron. Aaron calls me. Hey, come on up. Let's watch some football. Okay. Oh yeah, Packers game.
I wouldn't call what the Packers are doing right now football.
That poor guy. It's almost like the lineman, the offensive line, is putting him through some sort of weird initiation. There's like, we'll just step aside and let this kid get hit around.
I love the Packers to death. I bleed green and gold, but Ted Thompson, I don't know what you're doing, what you're smoking, but you are not a good GM. I mean, to be honest, we have Aaron Rodgers that has hidden a lot of weaknesses for a very long time. And, I always tell people I get very upset about this. This is why I don't watch Packer games anymore. I like to just check it up, look up online the score because I get so mad. We have not had a defense since 2010 when we won the Super Bowl. We were a top 5 defense. Ever since then, our defense has been trash. We should have been in the Super Bowl in 2011, 14 minimum, and 16. That we went to the championship.
Yeah.
Those 2 years in 2011, we were 15-1. Lost our defense. Haven't done anything about it. We let our 2 Pro Bowl guards go, our best cornerback last year. We do more subtracting than anything, and every year it's the same story.
We have got rid of a lot of good players.
It's frustrating, but Packers, it's fun, but I get too worked up over it, so I just go fishing instead.
Yeah, man, you're talking to a Vikings. Well, I'm not a football fan. But if I was, I'd obviously be a Vikings fan, and so you can talk about frustration all you want. I mean, right now everybody's like, "Oh man, keep it going. We're going to get to the Super Bowl." And I said, "Well, I said this at work today. I said, woohoo, we're going to get to it, but it's another thing to win it." And my buddy looks right at me and goes, "Don't say anything. Let's just get there."
Curse.
Well, and that's the thing, with my Vikings fans, I have a lot of friends that are Vikings fans.
Yeah.
And honestly, if it wasn't for the fact you guys were in my division, I'd be happy for you guys. You guys have suffered for a long time, and you guys are playing darn good football. You guys have a defense. That's the thing. I mean, it proves that your defense is top of the line because you had Sam Bradford come and get hurt, and then he was
Bridgewater got hurt, and
your
we got
star
this Keenum
quarterback
guy, and it's like
Keenum.
He's doing good.
Look at Case Keenum with I believe it was the Texans he was with last, and that guy couldn't even be a practice squad quarterback for him. It seemed like, and then now you got Case Keenum coming in going 6-2, and all of a sudden he's the Brett Favre of the world for the Vikings. All of a sudden, and it just shows you guys have a good team, and you guys are playing darn good football, and
we'll see what happens.
I don't hope you guys win the Super Bowl, but I'm glad you guys are having a good season. So yeah,
I always make comments to my Vikings fans when they're like, "Oh man," and they send all these stupid memes out for the Packers, even when they don't even play the Packers. They're still like trashing the Packers, and like I don't see too many Packer fans ever really trashing the Vikings because we're like nicer than that. But then all of a sudden, I'll make that comment where I'm like, "Where's the ring? How many NFC championships do you have? How many Super Bowl championships?"
Do you remember when the Vikings won the Super Bowl?
Me either.
Yeah, me neither. You?
Well, no. And here's the best part: you were talking about memes. Vikings fans will turn on their own team.
Absolutely.
In a second.
Packers are the same way. Like the second Rodgers got hurt, I mean, the bandwagoners jumped off. It is what it is. It's just one of those tough things with sports. But
so I have a question, and he has a question about his is about walleyes, and mine kind of leads into it too. You have a gift of getting really, or at least in the last year and a half, of getting really big walleyes. Like you do a really good job at getting like really big walleyes, are you do you work your butt off to get them, or are you just like awesome or something? Because you do a really
No.
good job at getting like huge walleyes.
You know, as much as I want to take full credit for all of this, I honestly can't. You know, the main thing I tell people, I have the best supporting cast out of everything. You know, it's taken me a really, really long time. A lot of things people don't quite understand is just how much trials I've gone through in the past 2 years. I mean, you've heard about it, Max Wilson luck. That's a thing. I promise you that is a thing. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong.
That's why we don't fish with you.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I kind of worked that all in my system, but I learned, you know, kind of when I first got started, I kind of surrounded myself with some of the wrong people. I was so quick to, you know, try and latch onto somebody because these are pros, or these are, you know, fishing that get sponsored, you know, before I knew how the industry quite worked. And, you know, it didn't, I found myself more doing stuff by myself, but now everywhere I've gone, all of my success is not based off of solely me. It is impossible for me to do this by myself. I have awesome teammates. I have awesome friends that show me a lot of stuff. You know, my partner Isaac, I'll tell people.
Is Isaac the one in the room right now?
Isaac is the one who's
okay. So yeah,
we put on the clinic.
Yeah,
today, from what I heard.
We do have another guy in the room, and that's Isaac. So
Isaac puts on a clinic every single time, and I'll tell people right away, Isaac is a better fisherman than me. There is so many people that I know that are.
Well, hell, then get out of the seat.
Right?
Let's
He should
bring
be here.
Isaac up in.
All right, so Isaac, here's
yeah, and you know that's I have people that show me a lot of stuff. You know, I learn from a lot of different people, and I just kind of take all my experiences of other places that I've gone, and I kind of apply that to my fish. You know, a lot of times you get lucky, but you kind of after a while you kind of know. Okay, here's an area where there's a lot of smaller fish. You know, this is a community hole. Let's go try search for something. You know, and that's one thing Isaac's really good at is he's really good at going to search for different things. You know, trying off the wall stuff or going, you know, trying new things, and that's how we discover a lot of stuff. And a lot of these big fish we're catching, it's 1 to 2 fish a night at first. You know, it's a lot of smaller fish. You know, we're not going out and catching 5,000, 10-pound walleyes. We're catching some big fish, but we're learning each time, and we apply what we learn each time.
Yeah, and I've thought about, you know, being even in, you know, the weird rough fishing that I do, I'm looking for big fish, whether it's rough fish or game fish, bluegills, crappies, whatever. You know, the last 5 or 6 years, I've learned that if you want to target big fish, you have to fish differently. They're not with little fish. I call it a playground effect.
The nursery.
You're not going to see us playing kickball with a bunch of third graders.
Yep.
We're going to be hanging out with doing other things at a different spot where it's less commotion. I've also compared it to myself. I'm a bigger guy. I don't like heat. And I like to stay cool and close to my food.
So it's probably
source.
hot in here then for you.
I'm burning up. It doesn't help.
That's probably that striker suit you got on.
Yeah, I put this on because I was putting the gas in my Jeep, and I wear shorts. Yeah, like year round.
Yeah.
And today was a little chilly because it was windy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, I got the podcast room is warm, fired up for
it. It is, and I'm not even near my food source, so I am shut down. Unlike a big fish, you know, they're going to be in a cooler, different spot, closer to their food, and when you can get that dialed in, you can start picking that kind of stuff out. Am I right, Isaac?
Yeah, and a lot of
I got a nod from Isaac.
A second fact checker.
And what Isaac, you know,
I know it's good, solid information now.
Isaac tells me too a lot. You know, we spend like for the last 3 weeks, I should say, for example, him and I and our other buddy Jake, we've been traveling up to north of us, an hour drive every night. We're working our day jobs. We're going out and we're fishing an area. We're putting that time on the water. And, you know, when we get into them good, we look like superstars. But when we're not catching fish, you know, a lot of people don't see those posts. When we go out and we drive 2-3 hours and we fish and we're not catching anything, but yet we're trying stuff. We're by ourselves. We're out trying new things, trying different techniques. And, you know, it's just time on the water. It's, you know, it's being able to realize, you know, and I have it on Erie. Erie is very prevalent with all this because sometimes there will be times where there's some smaller fish mixing with those bigger fish. You know, we had that in the NTC this year, but we'll talk about that later. But on Erie, a lot of times you'll find size classes of fish generally hang together, like you were talking.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times we'll have, you know, you'll have your 24s to 26, 27s. quality fish, but not tournament winning fish on Lake Erie.
No.
So there's been a lot of times where I'm catching 40, 50 fish going through an area where I can light the world up. But I might catch 1 or 2 10-pounders, but I'm not catching that consistent 8, 9, 10-pound average. So I'll leave those fish and I will travel. I will put time on the water and I will leave fish until I find the right pot of fish.
Right.
And because I'm not there to catch, in a tournament, I don't want to catch a ton of fish. I just want 5 fish. That's not too much to ask for.
You want your 5 money fish.
I just want 5 fish, so I can have my picture and my nice little pretty plaque, and that's all you're fishing for is five fish. And there's times where you got to be okay going a whole entire day of only getting 5 bites. That's
Right.
exactly what we had to do in the NTC this year. We had to accept that there was guys catching 30, 40, 50 fish a day, and they were sorting fish, because you can call out there. They're calling fish left and right.
That almost sounds like it'd be wasted time.
Kind of, and in their heads, a lot of times you feel, okay, I'm catching fish. This is good. I have a limit. But what where we were kind of coming from is what we were doing. We were only catching 8 fish, between 5 and 10 fish a day. But those 5 to 10 fish are those right fish. We don't have to cull that much. And if we're culling, we're replacing an 8-pounder with a 9-pounder, So how difficult that is to go all day long, especially if it's an afternoon bite, which it normally is, to where, you're 10, 11 o'clock and you may only have 1, 2 fish and you're watching guys all around you catching it, but you have to keep your mind in and say, you know what? I'm here to win this darn thing. Right. I'm not here to, I'm so sick of finishing in the middle of the pack. I want to win it. I'm not here to cash a check. I'm here to win it and become the best there's ever been. So you got to be able to go hero or zero sometimes,
Right.
and that's just patience, finding those big fish, because they're so finicky. I mean, they will make you pull your hair out. And when they go,
that's why they're that big.
Yeah, they don't. It's just like bucks. I always tell people they don't get big by being stupid.
Right.
Everything has to be perfect. Sometimes people get lucky and get that giant fish, but if you want to consistently get those monsters, everything has to be perfect.
Yeah. And you can't fish for a big fish hoping that big fish makes a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You gotta stock those fish.
Leads me into this question. I know you dug on the bass for kind of gave some shots there, but why walleyes? Why were you like, I want to be a walleye fisherman? Is it just the environment you grew up in?
Yeah, my dad was a walleye guide growing up, so I grew up fishing rivers. That's kind of my natural place, springtime river fishing. We grew up fishing Lake Winnebago, and that's just kind of what I enjoyed fishing growing up. We go up to Sturgeon Bay and stuff like that, and I really like fishing for everything. Even sometimes I'll go fish for bass just for fun.
Right.
But when I started fishing, I knew I was good at walleye fishing.
There you go. I
know I'm not good at bass fishing. I don't have the skills that some guys have because I don't have the time on the water. So that's just what I started doing. And if I were thinking money wise, I probably would have went bass because that's where the ton of money is. But walleyes for me, would you
have moved?
No,
because a lot of big bass, is not around.
Actually, not anymore, man.
I mean,
there's some guys around, but the big guys, the big guys live down south because they can do it all the time. But with walleyes, for me, there's something about coming to a launch in the morning, as much as it sucks, and it always happens on tournament day. But to know that you're going out and you're fishing in some big waves, there was times on Erie this year when I was pre-fishing and we were out there in legitimate recorded 8-foot waves. Big waves. I'm big waves to the point where you can't see the shoreline behind you. I mean, I have a picture that I can show you of my teammate Brian. He caught a 29-inch walleye, big fish, and that was what told us those fish are still there. We needed to go out there and make sure those fish were still there that we had found. And he's pretty tall. He's like 6'2", 6'3", and he's sitting on the back live well, and he's holding this fish. And you look, and there's a wave coming in, and it's about 2-3 feet bigger than him.
Oh.
Just come, and you can't see nothing but wave coming at him.
So you're gonna have to send me that photo so we can insert it into this.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
I gotta see it. That's wicked.
And
cool.
there's something about just going out and fishing in all climates and in that big water, that vast, giant stretches of water like the Great Lakes, and being able to find those fish. And be able to fish so many different ways. I've fished weeds, I fish rocks, I fish deep, I fished over 100 feet, I'll fish in 3 feet. We catch walleyes in every imaginable place, and they've just always intrigued me, and how
That's
big
awesome.
they can get, and they taste good.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that rolls into the very final big question. You already kind of see it. Tournament fishing. That's a big thing that you do. So you've kind of been talking in and out about tournament stuff. So let's kind of drop it. So you took 4th place at Cabela's NTC this year.
This year.
And you also got Big Basket on day 2.
Yep.
Correct? And you've taken 1st place in AIM, correct?
Yes.
And 9th in Cabela's NWT. That's not all this year, of course, and that one with your dad.
Yep.
So as 21 years old, let's redo it. 21 years old, 4th place, Cabela's NTC. Let's check that off the list, right? 9th place, Cabela's NWT. Again, check that off the list. So you slightly have been doing something right in the last couple of years. So talk to me a little bit about tournaments. What's your favorite tournament to go to? And just a little bit about tournaments, and then we'll kind of go into a slight quick gun range, and then we'll finish it off with the podcast. So in the next little bit here, you can tell me about tournaments with you.
I've been very fortunate, because I fish so many tournaments. I average between 14 and 20 tournaments a year. I start the tournament season in Spring Valley the 2nd week of March every year. And I have a tournament every single weekend starting the 2nd week of March all the way till generally the last weekend of September. So the weekends that I'm not
a lot.
That I'm not drilling with the Marine Corps Reserve, I'm tournament fishing. So I'm going all over the place. So I fish a lot of tournaments, and I've had some pretty good success. Last time I sat down and looked, and I try not to think about it too much because you don't want it to go to your head, any of that. You got to stay as humble as you can. But my mom actually told me the stats on it. I had, 13 top 10s, or no, 13 checks cashed, 8 top 10s, and like 4 or 5. It's 5 top 5s. So, and a win. So,
and that's how many years?
3 years.
3 years of tournament fishing. So
3 full years.
That's good.
And I've been very fortunate to have really good people behind me that have helped me, because it's not all me. It really is not. I've had a lot of help in that, but I fish darn near every circuit that there is, all the way from the Sheboygan Walleye Club, the little club tournaments, all the way up to the big dogs of the NWT. And I really like fishing the NWT because you really, really have to be on top of your game, because you're fishing against the guys that you see on TV, the guys who pretty much invented walleye fishing you're going against. And all these guys have been doing it for 20 to 40 years, and they've been doing this their whole life. And here I'm doing it for 3 years, and I don't run teams generally. I fish by myself. I have friends that I talk to, and I'll get local information and stuff like that. But I generally fish by myself. So a lot of this, you really have to be innovative in your thinking. You really have to be on top of your stuff. But I mean, of all places that I've gone, my favorite, it's really hard to pick my favorite. Leech Lake was a good one for the NWT. I was there for 3 weeks. That was my first NWT. So I went out 3 weeks ahead of time just to learn the lake, because Leech is huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So I spent 3 weeks just fishing by myself, and I this last year I got to go to Sakakawea. Was really cool. That was if no one's ever been to Sakakawea, that's a place I really really suggest you go to, because I mean it's a 16-hour drive from where I live.
Yep.
It's Western North Dakota, and it's just a different kind of fishing. We're pitching jigs in like 2 to 6 feet of water. Rocky shorelines in the back bays. We're fishing in May, and guys were making 120-mile long runs.
Wow.
Big runs. But you're catching a lot of fish.
Sakakawea is a reservoir.
It's a reservoir. Right? It's a reservoir off the Missouri River.
Yep.
And we're catching a lot of fish. It was a lot of fun. Caught probably 100 fish a day between bass, white bass, pike, and walleye. So catching a lot of fish. But you're back in these back bays, and the first day I was there, I had that normal North Dakota 70,000-mile-an-hour winds that's greeted me every time I've gone into that state.
Yeah, I love North Dakota.
Fun fact, that was actually the first time I ever been in North Dakota in temperatures above 35 below zero. So that was kind of cool to see it not frozen. But you know, I'm sitting there fishing in this back bay, and a coyote comes down 10 yards away from me because I'm right offshore. Gets a drink of water, and then all of a sudden there were some deer that came up over the crest. I had cattle walk down, take drinks of water, just chilling in the water right next to me. And then I had eagles flying overhead, hawks. I had an owl, just bison. There was buffalo walking around.
Damn.
So there's like all this wildlife, and there's no houses. So it's like the wild, wild west. I'm out here catching walleyes.
That's what I was just going to ask you. I can remember watching. I don't even know if you guys would remember Tony Dean Outdoors.
Oh yeah, Tony Dean.
You know, he always fished Sakakawea or what's the other big one out there?
Devils.
Maybe it's in South Dakota.
Oahe, yes.
Yeah.
Oahe, South Dakota. Same system.
Yeah, and I always noticed that, like, it doesn't seem like there's anything around these lakes at all.
There's really not. I mean, you see,
because not too many people want to live there.
Oh, it's a tough. It is a tough state to live in because it gets so cold and windy and there's
wind.
They got a tree, so they have a tree in North Dakota now.
It blocks it.
Yeah, you know, it slows it down a little bit. But you know, the people out there were great. But there just not a lot of people there, and the people that are there, they're located in one area, you know, and so there's giant, vast stretches of just nothingness, you know, and it was cool to get away from it and just spend a week doing it. It was awesome. But you know, and then I spent a lot of time on Erie. You mentioned the NTC. That was probably one of my favorite tournaments. My two best finishes in tournaments, big tournaments, all came off of that system. You know, I won on the Detroit River with that aim, and that was kind of cool how that happened because we fished the MWC the day prior, and we were running from Lake St. Clair 75 miles all the way down the Detroit River, all the way across Lake Erie into Ohio, and that I could write. Yeah, it was, and I could write a book about that day because we almost hit a freighter in the fog that didn't have any like signals or anything on. We hit a unmarked fishing net in Canada that we had to somehow get unhooked from our motor. I fell out of the boat on day one. My buddy. So, and the fun fact on that, actually, I stripped down to my underwear because it was April, 40-degree water temps, and I'm trying to dry my clothes off before a 75-mile run. And I'm in the back of the boat. My partner's reeling in like 8-9 pound walleye in my underwear, and our teammates pull up next to us and he goes, "Max, what are you doing in your underwear?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it. I'm netting a fish." Next day,
don't worry about it.
Yeah, well, and next day we're going in this little marina to gas up down there, and my buddy came in too close because like right here it's 6 inches of water, and then right here it's 10 feet of water. I mean, it's a straight drop, and he came in too close and he beached the boat. So I had to hop out and push the boat out. And so once again, I'm in my underwear, and my buddy's my partner's nowhere near teammates nowhere near to be seen. All of a sudden, the second I get, I strip down and get in the water, start pushing. He comes around the corner. He's like, "Max, why is it every time I see you, you're in your underwear?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Naked Fishing Nation."
Yeah.
Exactly.
Dude.
New hat.
So all this stuff is going on, and when we hit that day 2, our fish moved. We were sitting in good position after day 1, and day 2 our fish moved, and we start to head back, and all of a sudden 4-footers kick up. And we had to go 75 miles into 4-footers. And my seat had tore out. So my partner had to sit on the floor the whole 74 miles back, And so we're doing that, and we barely made it in. We hit 6-footers in St. Clair. And so we're going through all this, and we barely make it in. We finished like 19th or something like that. We did decent, but we dropped from day 1. And we go into that Detroit River one, and we had no pre-fishing on Detroit. We spent all our time on the lake, and it was river only for that tournament. So we went a half mile down the river to a spot that we looked on the map, and it just looked good. It was a flat drop down to the river channel, so we knew those pre-spawners were going to be up on that flat. And then once they dropped their eggs and went in post-spawn, they go down on that river channel and start feeding. So we knew that was a good place to start. On our first pass, we had 45 pounds, and we just kept working and working, and pretty soon we had 52 pounds on our 5 biggest fish.
Wow. And
we ended up winning by only a half a pound, but we ended up winning with no pre-fish, nothing. It was just one of those miracle days, and that's what Erie can do for you. And then when we had that NTC, we fished that one day. We found our fish. We're working a transition line. We're fishing a dumping ground, and these fish will spawn in the western basin of Lake Erie. And once they spawn, they head out east. They go to the eastern part there because they're migratory fish.
Right.
And they head out east to the deeper, cooler waters to start chasing bait fish. And they go there's these dumping grounds, and they go dumping ground to dumping ground, chasing these bait fish. And so basically we were hitting a resting point for them, because it's cities go out, dump their trash, dump all their garbage, and it creates like a natural reef almost, So we were fishing those, and those fish will sit there and just kind of relax and chill out, and those big fish will sit down there. And we had to figure out, we had a certain technique, a certain program that we had dialed in, that we could only get the big fish to fire. And there was thousands of little fish all around. We're fishing right in the pack. There's 250 boats on day 2 of this tournament for the NTC, because the NTC is a 251 boat field. It's 251 best teams out of the country that you have to qualify for. You can't just sign up. And we're fishing right in the main pack, a mile out from where the launch was. We didn't go far. And on day 1, I actually I had a live well hose disconnect, and so I was trying to pump water into my live well, and my boat had water coming in it. And so I had to put the boat on the trailer, drain the water out, and not run my live well and close off my front live well.
Right.
And so I got a late start to day 1. Day 1, we had a decent day. We caught a 10-pounder as we're reeling in, like I said, always happens, and saved our day. Well, my teammates were giving us so much grief, because our first team of Jason Zebek and Tim Johnson, the guys who won out there the year prior, they were in third with 43 pounds. And then Ali Shakur and Brian Zambrisky, they had like 36 pounds. So they rocked it that day, and then we were the low team with 27. So we're getting a lot of grief, and we had to buy dinner, and I told him, I was like, we're going to go out and hang 40 tomorrow. We're going to catch a ton. And he's like, oh yeah, right. They're giving me so much grief. I'm like, just watch. I was like, we're going to do it. Tomorrow's the day. We went out, and like I said, we were going through this whole entire pack, and it was combat fishing. But, our program, we stuck with it all day long, and we start popping off big fish here, big fish there. And all of a sudden, the last half an hour of the day, we catch 3 of our weigh fish.
Wow.
In one area. And next thing I know, we come in with 45.03 we had, and we needed 45.04 to take the lead. And when I put that bag on the scale, he told me how much I needed, and when I put it on the scale, it zeroed in at 45.04 to take the lead in the biggest tournament I've ever fished. Like, that's my Super Bowl right there. And I had the weight to lead it, and all of a sudden he's like, hold up, and we waited there for, that was probably about 5 seconds, but it felt like 5 years. All of a sudden ticked down to 03, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And when I got to my live well, I had 3 like 8-inch perch coughed up in my live well.
Oh
yeah. And so we're like right there for the lead, and going into day 2 and day 3, and we had a 10 and a half pounder in the first 10 minutes of day 3, and we're like, this is it. We got this. Our big fish are here. Our program's here. And it just didn't happen that day. A couple things changed, and I was right next to the leader and the guy in third place who ended up winning, and we were doing the same pass all day long. It was like first place, it was Don, me, and then Capelli. We're all on a line, and we're fishing the same area, and Capelli adjusted one thing, and he ended up winning it. And it was a great experience. But that's when that sheephead story I told earlier, as we're reeling in, that's when we got that sheephead, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is it right here. And we didn't get our fish that we needed, but it was still a great experience.
That's awesome.
One of the best things about tournament fishing, that for me, being at tournaments, that I miss is just the camaraderie of being with the top pros. And when you're there, like when I look back to when I first got into the fishing industry, I was hanging out with all the top pros in the Walleye Fishing League right away at the beginning of my fishing career.
Yep.
And now I look back on it, and people are like, yeah, I got to Gary Parsons. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
like
Gary Parsons.
Yeah. I'm like, just when I think about it, like all those guys, I'm like, I used to hang out with them. I used to take photos with them. I used to go out to eat with them.
Yeah.
I used to go in car rides with them. I used to interview them. I used to do all kinds of stuff. And I'm just like, that's a part that I miss, is just being able to hang out with those kind of group of guys and stuff. And I think that's one of the best parts of tournament fishing to me, is not only you're trying to get a check or get money or get a trophy, but just being able to hang out with all these guys and talk fishing and just everything is awesome. That's my favorite part.
And I hope that, there's some kid, a big Max Wilson fan,
Well,
he's like, I can't believe they're talking to him on the podcast. Someday I'll get to meet him, and we're just like, hey, man.
I'll be like, Flat Brim Nation?
Yeah.
Bags? Like,
And
are you kidding?
that's the thing, it's
There's always a banana in his boat. Come
right.
on.
Exactly. And I was talking to Isaac today, and that's the one thing, like, it's been weird for me, that I've kind of, I'm not famous. I refuse to accept the fact that, I'm this big name.
Well, don't say
fisherman.
famous, but say professional fisherman.
I don't like to consider myself a professional fisherman. I'm just someone who really enjoys the sport and likes and fishes a lot,
Would you consider yourself an athlete?
That was one of our questions we did on a podcast a couple podcasts ago. Is a fisherman an athlete?
Mentally, yes, we're athletes. Physically, there's times. I think ice fishermen, professional ice fishermen, like the guys, who do all like the ice fishing tournaments, like USA ice fishing team. I think those guys are more athletes than me because I got that winter body coming on from that fisherman's diet. But
is that what this is? Because I have it year round.
Yeah. See, the summertime is a little tough. We get hotter, easier, but winter, we're good to go. But I think mentally we are athletes because mentally you always have to be on top of your game. You have to be able to change. You can't just go out and fish and go, well, they're not biting today. I guess we'll go try again tomorrow. You have to make those darn things bite, and you have to find a way to get those things
to
bite.
Adjust your plan.
One of the things we talked about in this past season with our staff with Fish Addictions and with him is look at yourself and say, Patrick, you are a professional fisherman. And we talked about that, and I know you kind of said, well, it's kind of hard to wrap my self into an idea that I'm a professional fisherman. And it's just because, let's say 3 years ago, did you ever think you're going to be a professional fisherman? Or 4 years ago? It's now you're a professional fisherman. You're like, now what?
And I tell people this all the time. If you would have told me this 4 years ago when I walked into that aim that day and I sat there hyperventilating in my car, I was about to fish with the Gary Parsons, that I would have Gary Parsons commenting on my wall on my birthday saying happy birthday.
And there's Aaron over there eating Thanksgiving dinner at Gary's house.
Right. And and to be personal friends with these guys, it's just it's an indescribable feeling. It's like a high school football player gets to go play catch with Aaron Rodgers. That's literally how it is with me. I got to share the boat with some of these guys that I grew up idolizing.
Not only are you in the idolized mode now you are right there with them on the same level in a sense.
I have to figure out how to beat these guys. When I had for example, the NWT championship this last year, that NWT is like my bread and butter, or Green Bay is like my bread and butter. That's where I know that's where I grew up knowing how to walleye fish, and my friends are like, oh, you got this. This is your home body of water. Well, this has been these pros' home body of water since like day one. Gary is the man on the bay, and you get all these guys. And I thought I had a really good day on day one. I had 34 pounds. I caught a lot of fish. I was done by 9:00, and I was like, wow, I got a really good day. And then all of a sudden, the man, the myth, the legend, Tom Kimos comes in with 47 pounds, and I'm like, how in the heck does he do that? And you get these guys that just, they make you want to be better. They make you want to compete against these guys. And I always tell people my favorite part of a tournament, absolute favorite part, and that's what keeps me doing it, is the 10 minutes after the last weigh-in of the tournament.
And you go around and everyone shakes hands.
The minute that tournament's over, because beforehand, everyone thinks that everyone has their tournament winning bite figured out coming into that rules meeting. Everyone's going to win that tournament if their fish go, everyone's got it. But 99% of them don't, something changes. And so everyone's all secretive. Oh, I have a secret, I can't talk to you because you'll read my mind somehow and know exactly what I'm doing. And so everyone's everyone's all nice to each other, and everyone's, still nice guys and we'll talk, but you're not sitting there actually, this happened to me while fishing this week, yada, yada, yada. And then after that weigh-in, you can sit there and, just shoot the breeze with these guys and, sit here and just talk about hunting, fishing, life in general with, with these guys, that, I still look up to a lot of these guys. There's guys that, they say they look up to me, but I really look up to these guys. I look at these guys, and I'm always on Facebook watching these guys' posts and watching how these guys fish. And there's guys that I want to be like those guys. And, they had just started tournament fishing or, something like that. And they're like, well, I look up to you. And I'm like, well, that's funny because I look up to.
It's the same when we talk about, like, for me with photography, is that I look up to other photographers and I'm going to learn something from them. If they're worse than me or not worse than me, vice versa. People look up to me, whether they're better or not. You're always willing to learn. You're always willing to teach. So those, the professional people, I guarantee you could walk up to Gary and say, hey, Gary, can you help me on this? no problem. He would absolutely hands down
And
let you teach you.
that's the
And it would be
great.
the same thing. He'd learn from you
Oh,
something.
yeah. That's the great thing. When I first started, because I used to always bug Gary. He was, before I knew all these guys personally, I would go up to Gary and I go, just start talking to him about stuff at sports shows. And it got to a point where he recognized me when I come up to him. I'm pretty sure at times he's like, oh gosh, here comes that kid again. But I would
He's got
send
that
him.
flat brim on.
Yeah. Oh, this is before the Brim.
Oh.
This is way back when. And I would send a message on Facebook and I would ask him questions about stuff. Not like, hey, can I have your GPS coordinates? Those questions, but like, hey, why do you choose this? I noticed you do this. I noticed in the boat you did this. And I actually I did a school report on Gary one time. And you were supposed to pick like your idol or whatever, or just like a public figure, and you're supposed to do like a biography about him. And all these people are picking Aaron Rodgers or like all these big name guys, famous guys. I picked Gary Parsons. They're like, who the heck is Gary Parsons? I'm like, only the best walleye fisherman ever walked this earth, And I'm really big into the history of walleye fishing. So I picked his brain of, what makes you different, asking all these questions. And I learned from all this. I got the chance to meet a couple of the older, like, from like the 80s, those type of walleye guys. And, what made you guys so deadly? What makes you guys so good at walleye fishing? Because there's age-old tactics that they use that will still work today that people straight up forgot.
Mm-hmm.
There's stuff that I learned from the old timers of the industry to the new young guns. There's so many things that you can learn, and just by talking to people. And even if I'm talking to you, I don't want to learn something from fishing. I just want to talk because I just like talking about fishing. Like you guys can tell, I could talk about fishing all night and all day.
I was just telling Aaron, I said we got to get some extended batteries sometimes.
I have one quick question before the rapid fire deal.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about this personally on a different podcast with ourselves on a road trip, but glitter in the boats or not glitter? Short answer: glitter in the boats or not glitter in the boats, and why? And why is there glitter in boats? Like the shiny glitter that's on
like as far as like in the fiberglass and stuff like
built
that?
right. Yeah. What have you ever thought about? Like, why is that there?
Prettiness, I think.
Prettiness, yeah.
I tell people fishing all these tournaments
makes you more manly.
It's as much of a fashion show sometimes as it is a tournament series. There's Tommy Scarless, said there's three guys that go there, that go to tournaments. There's guys that go there to show off their boats and to show off their sponsors and all their fancy tackle. There's guys that go there to cash a check, and there's guys that are there to fish to win the tournament, and there's a lot of times I get my butt kicked by guys in,
for a little tiny boat,
16-foot bass boats.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy a local, in the NWT on Mississippi River, kicked everyone's butt in a 16-foot bass boat. So I think a lot of it's just for looks. I like to look good. You look, you feel good, fish good. So I like to have a sparkly boat, but
sparkle.
It becomes a pain to keep it clean.
All right, rapid fire, and then we're good. Rapid fire is kind of like a very short yes or no type answer, and they're very small. We have a couple of them. We always ask everyone a couple. You can't cheat me looking. He's already done it.
Yeah.
I can't read that.
He's
small.
already got it.
Okay, are you ready, Max?
I am ready.
Okay,
bring it on.
Ice fishing or open water?
Open water for sure.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
We ask that every time, and you can ask the extended version of that.
Rebel or Empire?
Empire.
Every time.
It is like an every time thing.
Favorite tournament and why?
Like series or overall tournament that I fished?
Overall tournament.
Oh gosh, probably the NTC because that was my first really big one.
And what's your favorite kind of cheese?
Not a big
Wisconsin
cheese.
is all you have to say.
Wisconsin, but not a huge cheese fan.
Oh my gosh.
Mozzarella.
All right.
Or cheddar brats.
Cheddar. Ooh, we could talk brats for days.
Ooh.
We get a couple places around here that they'll stick anything in those brats. Wisconsin, same thing. They go crazy with their brats, but
really?
Sometimes just a weird. Yeah, there's you were telling me about the one in Grand Rapids that does it, but there's two places in Bemidji that do weird.
Well, I know,
weird
yeah,
things as well.
Downtown Meats will do some.
They'll do
different-
some weird ones.
But
They actually had that.
They have the peanut butter jelly broth though.
I don't think they do.
What?
Yeah, you got it, dude.
That doesn't sound right.
It doesn't, but it's
It's
amazing.
so right though.
It's amazing.
All right, so episode 18 with, I don't even want to say the full length name that you have going for yourself.
Wishing I was fishing.
Wishing I was fishing.
That flat brim wearing clown.
Yeah. Now everyone out there is going to post photos of hashtag #FlatBrimNation.
I hope so, man. I think it's
now,
wonderful.
I'm never going to wear this hat.
Okay.
So I'm going to give this to you.
Okay.
Now, we want to shout out with you wearing it.
Okay.
And then I hope to see some photos like in a tournament or something where you just quickly put it on, take a picture.
I'll wear that.
This
for the
needs
whole
to
tournament.
sit on your dash or something, because that you ain't gonna see another tournament fisherman that has that deal on there.
You think I'm not gonna rock that in a tournament?
Rock it.
Dude,
Oh,
he
heck
fishes
yeah.
naked sometimes.
Yeah.
He's had
you guys
nothing.
should have
It's
seen
good.
the tournament. My last tournament, we took second in a Sheboygan Walleye Club on De Pere, and it was right around Halloween. So I wore a shark mask the whole entire time.
I actually think I saw a photo of that.
It was on Target Wall. I wore it the whole time. You should have seen the looks they were giving me.
Dude, that's awesome.
We're catching fish left and right. I'll rock it all day.
Well, I'll tell you.
Well,
I'll tell you, Max, it has been a pleasure getting to know you, and you're outstanding, man.
I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure for having me. I appreciate it.
you know, the best thing with this is I think 80% of this I just kind of sat just like this, and I just let you freaking go, man. Just
Right.
and you're just telling this tournament stories. This is. I mean, if anyone that's listening didn't get one piece of anything out of this, then check your pulse.
And I hope, like I said, I hope there's some young angler out there that's going to get wind of this, and it's going to light that same fire that you got.
If there's
it's awesome, man. It's really encouraging.
there's one thing, before you kick me out of here, if I could tell any young angler listening, don't ever give up, no matter what you do. Within the last 2 years, I don't know how many times, there was signs that I should quit, that I had boats that were breaking. I had stuff that just wasn't working. I had, there was times where I was mentally broken. I was done, I went through a lot of stuff in the last 2 years. It's been a really tough 2 years, and I should have quit probably about 10 times by now. There's a lot of people that were telling me to quit, that I physically can't do it anymore. I've almost died fishing probably about, I think I'm up to five times where I was almost dead from this stuff. And I have not quit, and I refuse to quit. And no matter how many times people tell you to stop, you're not going to make it. You can't do this. Don't ever quit. Smile at them. Say, thank you for your opinion. I will show you that I can do it, because that's what I've done ever since I was a junior in high school. My principal told me that I will never make it as a professional fisherman. I need to come to class more often. I need to stop trying to pursue my dream and go to college, do stuff like that. Don't ever quit on your dream, whatever it may be, fishing, sports, whatever you want to be. Go do it, be the best you can, and don't let anyone ever say that you can't, because no matter what you can, no matter what the odds are, you'll do it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Giving chills.
Damn.
So that was, what are we, episode 18?
18, yeah.
So episode 18. Don't forget, like, subscribe, share, comment. Look out for the giveaway that was in there. Message us the code. And don't forget Google Play, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, the whole works.
Yeah.
I'm Aaron.
I'm Patrick.
I'm Max.
And this is
The Broken Line.
Did it.
That's it, dude.
You did
Perfect.
it. Give me. There you go.
That was fun. That was fun.
Thank you for listening to Broken Line Podcast. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media. Like, share, comment, and subscribe.